We all know that waste is a reality on most construction projects. But why does this waste occur? That is the topic of conversation today with Shane Saltzgiver. He is the CEO and founder of VEC. And when it comes to construction technologies and logistics, that's where VEC comes in. They combine cutting-edge technology with their experience and guidance, and they guide every client to their stated vision for their projects, and they make construction easy. So they work with subcontractors, GCs, and owners, helping with the implementation of the right technology in the right situations. And in our discussion, we talk about why waste occurs. We talk about ways to reduce that waste. We discuss the misapplication of technology, and that misapplication can often occur because the office has great aspirations for the use of technology, and the field looks at the office and says, let me tell you how it really is. And there's just that roadblock there, and that needs to be overcome. And so we talk about how, if you're stuck in the mindset, this is the way we've always done it, how can you get out of that mindset? And we really drive towards some specific actions that you can take to reduce waste. This discussion that we have today is very detailed, but it's also very practical. So I want you to think about how you can use and apply it, whether you're a sub or a GC, to make sure that you're doing everything within your power to reduce waste. And I think you'll find it very interesting because there are some insights that you will gain that will help you right away if you use and apply them. So listen for those insights. One of the things I like about Shane is that he has a background working with students at his alma mater of Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. And it's really important that you think about how you can identify those folks coming out of college who have that comfort level with technology so that you can leverage that in your business moving forward. So enjoy my conversation with Shane. He has a great restaurant recommendation at the end for those of you visiting the San Francisco Bay Area. Thank you for listening to Construction Genius. And as always, please share the show with other people in your network so that we can spread the reach of Construction Genius. And of course, give us a rating or a review wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening. This is Eric Anderton, and you're listening to Construction Genius, a leadership masterclass. Thomas Edison said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. If you're a construction leader, you know all about the perspiration, and this show is all about the 1% inspiration that you can add to your hard work to help you to improve your leadership. Shane, welcome to Construction Genius.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Great to be here with you.
You shared with me before our discussion here a rather staggering statistic, and that is that waste in the form of natural, human, and capital resources accounts for 20 to 30% of project development cost. That kind of blew me away. In your experience, why is this waste occurring?
Yeah, it's something that I've been studying and researching for a while and looking across the 150 projects or so that we've been involved with. And when you think about that, we're designing primarily with the intent of getting to a permit set of drawings, a two-dimensional permit set of drawings that is intended to build a three-dimensional world. And there's a lot of ambiguity that comes through these drawing packages. There's a lot of deferred coordination scope that gets passed downstream into the pre-construction and construction stage that a lot of the design has not been fully vetted for constructability, or it hasn't been optimized to be able to build in the most efficient and effective way. And so really, when you look at some of the data that you can correlate it back to, one of the primary cause of claims on projects are these design errors and omissions, this lack of optimization and vetting the design for constructability. We look at how much rework is prevalent in the industry, and some statistics are claiming 30%, up to 30% of a project is rework. Now, varying, of course, some are much less, but when you look at that rework and you ask, why is this happening, right? Sometimes it's poor data, using incorrect information in the field. Sometimes it is a mistake that was made, something that wasn't fully vetted through that early pre-construction coordination effort. Obviously, design changes and that happening at a later stage warrant rework that is often unavoidable. But an interesting data point also with rework is that when you look at safety incidents on projects and you look at when safety issues primarily occur, that you'll find a common trend that rework is often a leading cause or a leading correlation to safety. So when we look at reducing rework, reducing this acceleration that happens often in projects to make up lost time, and the correlation to safety, that this on a macro level is much bigger than just saving time and money. It's about protecting our teams, protecting our guys and gals in the field. And so rework is occasionally, of course, unavoidable based on later design iterations, but we've been able to see that by doing more upfront, thinking through this 2D design into an actual three-dimensional world and bringing true clarity to those design documents, that we can eliminate a lot of this waste.
That's interesting. I've never thought about that correlation between rework and safety directly. Can you give me some statistics on that? Do you have any figures, or is that anecdotal? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so I've looked around even recently, trying to pulled up every possible article that I could around safety and rework, and it's often difficult to find a publication that's going to correlate this, but I'm drawing from my own experience working with dozens of general contractors and trade subcontractors, and in conversations with some of them, that they've opened up and shared that their internal data. One general contractor was saying that over 50% of their safety issues are correlated to rework, and I don't believe that is uncommon. We find that when I was managing electrical work, man, there's nothing worse than telling an electrician to go in and tear out this beautifully built electrical room and beautiful piping, and it hurts the soul when you got to go in and take that down and rebuild it and build it usually in an accelerated environment. So it's no wonder that we find these correlations.
It's really interesting. And I think the way you're framing it here is the tension between the 2D drawings and the 3D reality. And obviously, there's technologies coming in such as BIM that are attempting to bridge that gap. People may be listening to the program today and they just might be thinking, Shane, it's great to identify the issue, but isn't that just something that we're kind of stuck with in construction, even with the technology advances?
Yeah. And you think about how many project delivery methods that we've evolved through over the years, and getting into design build and design assist and IPD. And when you look at those, right, it should have been getting much, much better. And sure, in a lot of cases, it did get better, but it's not solved. And when you actually dive into each of those delivery methods, and we work on design build, design assist, IPD projects, we've been involved with them all, of course, a lot of plan and spec, but you look at how they're actually set up, and you look at even in a design build, you're still taking your design to a significant, say 75% to 100% CDs before you're actually going through this true pre-construction coordination. That's when you really discover, can this design get built in the way that we thought it could get built? And design assist, we're bringing contractors in earlier, which is fantastic. We're getting a seat at the table early on. But when we look at what those discussions are actually stemming around, what are we talking about? What are we looking at? We're still primarily basing that on a two-dimensional design iteration, right? Until you look at it in 3D and you actually take it to a level that is fabrication ready, and you can spool your material out of it, that until you get to that point, you really don't know if it's constructible or if it's been optimized.
Okay. So let's explore this a little bit then. We've got this number 20 to 30%, that tension between 2D and 3D, between the drawing and the reality. It's creating multiple issues, including that one of rework and safety. What are some ways that we can focus on that practically reduce this waste, that aren't, some people, they come with these ideas that are going to revolutionize the industry. And then, dude, I don't want to revolutionize the industry, but I do want to incrementally improve. So do me a favor. What are some of those practical ways that we can reduce that waste?
Yeah. So I'll share specifically to our general construction community, and even specific to, let's say, cast in place contractors, that looking at new ways to approach the quality control and quality assurance process. On one of my first projects, when I was managing electrical work, the superintendent for the general contractor, he asked me, what's the first thing that we do about risk? And I said, well, we plan for it, we mitigate it, right? I'm a young buck out of school. And he goes, no, the first thing that we do is we attempt to engineer it out of the equation. And then we look at how to mitigate it. So what we started doing was looking at this cause and effect relationship. And an example is one of our large aviation projects. The general contractor was laser scanning all the decks the day or two prior to the concrete placement going in. And they were looking at that data over the next week and then coming back to the team and saying, hey guys, comparing this laser scan data against the model, this was built incorrectly. This was built out of tolerance, but you've got concrete poured at that point. You're still chipping, you're still pouring, you're still, so I said, why are we not looking at this data in real time or in a short amount of time, getting it back to the field team before they pour concrete? So we developed an approach working with one of the prominent cast in place contractors here in the Bay Area. And we said, okay, we're going to come in and laser scan every one of your decks the day before you pour. And we're going to analyze, since you're the cast in place contractor, we're going to take this data and we're going to focus on your formwork, your blockouts, your edge form, your soffit, and all the embeds that are going into this deck. And instead of laser scanning it and giving you this data in a week, we're going to turn this around within 24 hours. And we're going to produce a very simple report of everything that is out of tolerance that can be corrected before that concrete goes in. And on the first project, we deployed it on a massive healthcare project here. It resulted in a staggering statistic for this highly experienced contractor. It was one of the highest quality cast in place projects that they had. Not a single embed was missed. Not a single blockout was missed or in the incorrect location. Not a single edge form, soffit mistake. Not that we didn't find them. I mean, you got to look at the human error, the data errors that happen. Mistakes happen, right? But being able to identify those and get that data back to the field team to eliminate that before concrete goes in. It's very quick to move an embed over a few inches or a few feet before you pour concrete. Doing that after you pour concrete, as you know, it's extremely labor intensive, costly, and it has the potential to downstream delay the project.
Okay, so that's fundamental there. You identified a specific problem or a specific potential problem or issue, and then you picked the laser scanning tool, if I heard that correctly, the laser scanning tool specifically to address that problem, and you were able to do it in such a way that the information got back in a usable way to the folks who needed it in a short period of time.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
So that's an example of a good practical use of technology. But you've also seen bad uses of technology in construction, sort of haphazard or misapplied uses. Why do you think that occurs?
Let's talk more in the virtual, looking at the BIM environment,
Yes.
right? That it's the demands and the requirement to deliver this on projects has significantly outpaced the supply of individuals that can provide it, that can meld that blend of construction and engineering knowledge with the technological, application of it. And when you look at this demand that's growing so fast, I mean, every major project that goes out now has this requirement. It's been difficult for a lot of contractors to get up to speed and be able to build out a resource pool that can keep up with this. So we see often the specifications will call for, BIM coordination, BIM modeling from all the trades, from the general contractor, facilitating that, of course. And so it's often a scramble effect of, okay, how are we going to check this box? Well, what happens is contractors that haven't been up to speed and they don't have the team, or they haven't partnered, say, with an external company like ours that can help them with that they build these models. They're doing it because they're forced to do it, but their end goal is to go build things the way that they've always built things. And so they spend this time, this money to check these boxes. They go into the field, they're attempting to build it in the way that they always have, but you can't do that anymore. That's that when you build these models and you coordinate these models, you have to build per the model. And this is, of course, not across the board. A lot of contractors have gotten up to speed, but a lot more of the mid-size or smaller contractors, this is fairly new to them. They don't have the resources qualified that can perform this. So it puts this stress and this tension on this process that they're spending money and time. And ultimately, they're confused when they go into the field because they're being forced to build in a way that with documents and shop drawings and Trimble, robotic station points, that is new to them. So it really compounds that waste and the inefficiency for them.
Okay, so it's interesting though, because I get this picture of, you're bidding a project, you're checking the boxes because that's what we do, right? We check boxes, and just so that we can get out in the field and make some money, right?
Yeah.
So speak to me as the president of a construction company, and I feel this tension again where I want to be able to meet the specifications so that I can win the work, but I have that gap in my company between the technology that's been expected and my experience. What can I do there to bridge that gap? What should I be focused on?
Yeah. So this is something I'd recommend, even if we weren't in the service providing business of doing this, but the first step is often just partner with somebody that knows how to do this. They can help show you the way. They can work with your field teams. They can work with your project management team, and they can be able to help you bridge that gap. And it's so painful when I get a call from somebody and they ask for a price to implement BIM coordination at the trade level, and I give them a price and they're like, man, I'm carrying like 10% of that in my bid, or I'm awarded the job and I only carried 10,000, and you're saying it's 100,000 to do this, right? So partnering with a company up front that can help guide the way, right? If you want to hire some individuals and bring them in, that works too. But we're talking about on massive jobs, we might have 15 people full time just for one trade, building these models, building these shop drawing packages. And then it's looking at it in a way that is fully melding the field, the mindset, their decades of experience in how to build with the team that can deploy the technology. And so many companies make a mistake of focusing on the technology. They're technology first. We're going to go build these models, but we don't have the applicable construction experience to build them in the right way. So a company needs to be open-minded to say, hey guys, look, we have to go down this path. This is the way of the future. It's adapt or die kind of scenario. It's happening very fast. So be open, ask for help, ask for support, and then really bring that field team, because at the end of the day, if the field team doesn't trust that model, trust those drawings, trust what's being taken into the field, they're not going to build from it. And then
okay, so let me interrupt you right there. I think because, again, you identified another source of tension. So I'm doing the right thing as the CEO of the company. I'm bringing in someone like yourself, or perhaps I even hire someone, or whatever the case is. And yet there's another source of tension there between the office and the field. And the field guys are like, yeah, here comes the office again, telling us what to do, but we really know what's up. And then here comes this pinhead dude who says technology. And I know how to get something built. Give me a little bit on how I can navigate that tension between the aspirations of the office with the perceived realities of the field crews.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the biggest problems right now is, you can put into your search engine and find 1,000 BIM consulting or BDC consulting companies across the globe, right? They got thousands of people that know how to operate Revit and Bluebeam and Navis, and most of them haven't spent time in the field. They haven't spent time managing projects. So the goal is, the way you have to approach it up front is it has to be field driven in terms of what's our means and methods. How are we going to build this job? What type of fittings are we going to use? What type of support systems? What type of cable do I want to pull through this, right? And so it's thousands of questions up front of how we're going to actually build this job. So when that gets handed into the actual team that's building these models and their shop drawings, that it's fully baked with everything that specific contractor and that specific team. Teams vary in terms of their approaches within a company. So it's bringing everybody to the table, being able to dedicate and say, hey guys, general foreman, whoever's on this project, you need to allocate the time for this. Make sure these guys fully understand how you want to build the job, check in regularly, make sure that they're going down a path to begin with that has the end in mind, with your end in mind, how you want to build the job specifically.
So let me ask you this. Give us a quick survey of where tech actually is at the moment in terms of construction. And I'd like you to frame it in this way. So I've applied all the tools at my disposal, or perhaps the right tools, to seek to take that 2D idea and bring it into a 3D reality. I get out into the field to apply it, and yet I still find a gap there. Is that the case? Is there still a gap between the very best that we can produce using technology and the actual reality on the ground? So
taking the model, all this effort that we spend in the virtual world has to be brought to the field in the right way. It has to be brought with a robotic station, with this, essentially handing the field team a Lego kit that was built with their direct input the entire way. They're getting a shop drawing kit. They're getting all their prefabrication kits out of it. They're getting all their spooled material showing up in the right location at the right time. And that data is being put with all these robotic station coordinates from the model into the field on the site, that is essentially giving them the very clear direction of here's where it needs to go, point A to point B, here's what you're putting in, and there's your material. And by doing that, you can reduce the amount of time that the field team is spending turning drawings, looking at design packages, trying to figure things out. But it's really looking at that entire supply chain management. So taking it from the model, using robotic stations, using tools like laser scanning for your quality assurance and quality control processes, and really making sure that team is set up for success, for everything that they can possibly need to have. And then also a lot of what we do is we put data vaults on the job site. Well, one of our guys out there with an actual station set up, and the foreman, general foreman, whoever can come up and look at these models. If there's anything missing that they weren't clear on, making sure they have a solid understanding so they can give direction to the team to move forward efficiently. If you try to take these models and and say, you know what, I'm going to just build the way I always built. You're not going to be able to do that very well once you get into the site, because everybody else is building per these models.
Yeah, it's interesting. What I'm hearing here in summary so far is this idea of you want to be able to identify those technology experts who have a combination of the cutting edge perspective, but then also the actual field experience, so that they can bring the right tools to the job for the particular problem that you're looking to solve.
Yes.
And then you've got this idea of, and this is always a tension, no matter what in construction, of getting the field and the office aligned, right?
Yep.
So the field isn't just, the office isn't just swooping in and saying, field, do this. And the field's like, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. So there's this idea of continual communication, getting feedback from the field and using that as you're building your models and as you're implementing your technologies.
Yep. And also in the same way with the project management teams, oftentimes where we can get into trouble is we spend so much time with the field team really planning this thing out and getting it to the point of where they have confidence, they trust it, they trust the data, they're ordering everything out of it. And the project management teams often get left to the side. So we've been working really hard to make sure that you have to see success in all those pillars. Project management executive teams need to be in the loop throughout the process. Field teams need to be in the loop. And then the procurement team and the prefabrication team as well.
Okay, so if I'm the executive in the company and I see this intensity of communication that needs to be happening, who should I be holding accountable in my organization for that communication?
So just make sure I understand. So communication on a specific project, communicating between the virtual and the field world, right?
Yeah, bridging all the gaps. Who's going to be the hub for that communication?
So typically you're going to have a project lead that is leading the model development and the coordination aspects. And that individual needs to be working intimately with general foreman, superintendent, whoever. So typically you need to have the superintendent and whoever the senior project manager is on that project. Those two need to be points, senior project and working directly with that lead of the virtual model development. So if you got the superintendent is communicating this down to the general foreman and ultimately the install teams. And that project manager is working side by side with that superintendent to make sure that we're not going too far. We're not spending too much money, too much time. We're not going too far. I mean, you can go forever in developing these models and building these Lego kits, right? So senior project manager, superintendent have to be attached at the hip while we're going through this process and working with the team lead to give direction to the virtual modeling team.
What have you found is the most effective way in your experience? Let's say you have a very experienced, very successful project manager, someone who's very technically skilled, but perhaps they're not all the way up to speed with the latest technologies. But this person, this man or woman are a key part of a project's success. What have you found are effective ways to get that person up to speed as quickly as possible or to support that person?
Yeah, no, it's something that, we work with some of the greatest, project management teams, but, just how you've managed projects in the last 20 years doesn't necessarily completely apply to what we're doing in the last, say, 5 years. Yeah. So it's a lot of education. It's a lot of time up front, making sure they understand why we're doing these things and what the cost is of not doing these things. Mm-hmm. And it takes a lot of meetings, a lot of on-site meetings, a lot of walking them through it, showing them the value, right? Understanding why we're putting this effort into building these models and what you're going to get for it. Really understanding that, what am I going to get? And if I don't do it, what am I not going to get? And how much is that going to cost me alternatively? It's a lot of education that has to go through on every single project to make sure that everyone is understood on why we're doing these things.
That's excellent. In your opinion, where are the real breakthroughs in technologies going to occur in the next 3 to 5 years in construction?
What I'm most excited about, and I hope we get there within the next 3 to 5 years, is looking at scheduling. Scheduling has been this, I finally made peace with it, that it is for humans to adequately build a schedule and update it based on all the dynamic variables that happen every minute on the job site. Right? Material not showing up, somebody calling in sick, somebody getting held up by another, trade or whatever's going on. That by the end of that day, so much has already changed that to actually update that schedule, collect that data from the entire day, reorganize to continue to optimize, the next day's construction process is a very daunting or near impossible. And we've gone back to using sticky notes to schedule massive projects. We've got the actual P6 schedule is just more of a collecting dust and updated a month after the prior month. And so we're down to 3-week schedules and using sticky notes. So the advancement that I'm most excited about is we have been seeing advancements in being able to use through 360 photos, being able to use with laser scanning of actually taking that data in real time every day on the job site, bringing that data back into an automated way of really analyzing what happened, what got built, what didn't get built, and being able to collect that data in a very efficient way and take that data back into the schedule and reorganize so that when we come back to the job site the next day, we know that we can shift from area 2 to area 3, and we know the material's there, we know the labor's there, we know everything is ready to go, it's fully coordinated. So I'm most excited for that. And really, we've been seeing a lot of advancements. I mean, there's things right now with, say, 360 photos that are being used, I mean, we use them almost every day on our projects. It adds massive value, especially today, a lot of remote individuals, brings them to the job site. They've already been able to get some automation out of that, being able to pull and analyze, what drywall was put up this day, what piping was put up this day, correlate, get those exact quantities actually out of those photos and, through automated analysis, and bring that back into an environment where we can schedule from it in a more automated way to where it's not just labor intensive working till midnight every night, trying to figure out how we're going to reorganize the next day on the job or next week on the job.
Okay. So that's not the scheduling you're referring to is not only the first schedule, so to speak, but then the updating of the scheduling as you go forward in the project.
Yeah, we're great at building schedules up front, right? I mean, this perfect world, man, everything is easy to schedule, right? In theory, but day one, you get on that job and so much has already changed, and that compounds for years or months, depending on the length of the project.
So what if you're a subcontractor? And I'm finding in talking with folks who are in the technology field, a lot of the advancements in the application of technologies are actually driven by the subcontractor community as opposed to the owners and the GCs. So what if I'm a subcontractor and I'm involved in a project and people are stuck in, this is the way we've always done it kind of mentality? What do I do to move the needle there?
So it comes back to that question of trust, right? To be able to move the needle, you got to be able to have a team that trusts in this technology and being able to apply it. And once that trust happens, or someone's, at least their mind has been opened enough to say, you know what, guys, this is the problem that we're facing. Can we work together to solve this, right? Once you have that pivotal moment, then by working with why this is being driven so much on the subcontractor level is because we're spending an incredible amount of time and money up front. All this coordination work that we're doing ultimately is saving a ton of time and money in the field and enabling new ways of prefabrication and supply chain management that previously was unavailable to us. So when you've got the right technological team, either in-house or external, like a company like us, we have 3 full-time programmers. All they're doing is enhancing, taking Revit, building on top of it, taking these 3D platforms and to solve specific problems. A lot of the advancements that we make internally is we're on the site with a field team and they say, hey guys, I got this problem. Can you help me solve it? Say, I don't know. Let me go see, right? We go figure it out. We look at it and we say, you know what, we can. A few things that we just developed in the last month, being able to point load analysis, right? When you're modeling these projects and your point loads are all hanging from the deck, you need to be able to see that in real time. We can't wait for a structural engineer to look at it 3 months from now and say, yeah, that's good or bad, right? So we built that automation into the modeling. So as we're modeling, we're seeing in real time, are we within our point load limitations, right? Looking at things like pull calculations, being able to have that automatically done so you can figure out, can I pull this wire or can I not before you finish and you're ready to pull wire, you know if it's ready to be, if it can be pulled and what the best way to pull that wire is, So yeah, so once you build that trust, once the mind has been open to actually say, you know what, this technology side, that's not my specialty, but I know how to build and I can build as good as anybody. And I've got decades that got me here. That mind needs to be open and say, all right, guys, let's all come to the table. Let's solve specific problems that you're facing every single day. And we need to use the technology tools that we have to do that and build that for you guys.
And so that mentality then of thinking differently and shifting the way that we're approaching a project, it almost sounds like it can be driven from the bottom up, from the subs to the GCs, and then ultimately looking to drive it up to the owners.
Yep.
And that seems to me like one of the biggest challenges, right? Because, I'm an owner and what do I want to do? I just want to get my building built as cheaply, as fast and as quickly as possible so that I can do with it what I want to do. So if I'm a GC, how do I approach the owners? What's a good way to pitch this and to begin to, have those difficult conversations that, hey, we're going to spend a little bit more money up front, but it's going to have this effect down the road?
Yeah, I think the best way to do it is being transparent about what the ROI is if we do these things versus if we don't do these things. And that's one of the biggest problems in the industry right now, that when an owner or a GC is specifying that they want BIM on a project, that they're compressing that price, beating down that price as much as possible. But that price, what's going into that is your planning effort. That is your pre-construction, really the way we used to plan jobs, by light tables and looking at it in the field, that we can work through that early on. So talking with the owner and saying, hey, if we're going to be in a design assist, design build, IPD, whatever environment, that let's not just focus on this ultimately getting to a better defined 2D permit set. Let's start this modeling process early. As that design team is coming up with their intent, or we're design build and we're designing that intent, let's make sure that we have vetted it for constructability early before you get to your permit set, ideally, right? Let's make sure that by the time we get to that permit set, we're ready to go, that it can be built, Now, yeah, that takes some extra time and money up front, but right now that time and money is getting spent either way on most projects during pre-construction. It's just getting done at a time that it's already baked. You've got a permit set, you've got an engineered set of drawings, but by that time, that's why we have all these RFIs and change orders and all this snowball effect. All this work that we're doing in pre-con, we need to be moving it earlier in the process.
Yep. So if I'm a GC, I've got to not only develop relationships with my owners, but also the folks who are influencing those owners, like the designers, like the architects, like the engineers. Yeah,
and one of the biggest gaps that we're trying to approach, and this comes up a lot in talking with owners, is looking at liability and versus means and methods, right? And design liability, how far can design go? How far can we really go during that design stage? And what liability can be borne by design without increasing liability unnecessarily, right? How far can we really take those models during design until it has to get handed off to the construction team to take it from there? Seems to be the biggest pushback in terms of really changing that mindset of what should be expected during the design stage versus the construction stage. And that discussion around liability and how we actually approach that is one of the biggest hurdles that we have found in working with the owner group.
It's interesting. I'm looking at your resume. You're a Cal Poly graduate from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. Love that area of the world, and you're the vice chair of the Construction Technologies and Education Committee. In your work with the folks at Cal Poly, what are you seeing from the new generation of folks who are going to be getting into the construction industry in terms of their appetite for technology, their ability to use it, and give me a little bit on that. I'm interested there, Shane.
Yeah, when I go down to Cal Poly every few months, and we have interns up here every summer that we're collecting that feedback and sharing what we do, and what we're seeing, especially in the millennial generation here, that growing up with growing up with technology at our fingertips. Hopefully, we got fingertips.
I know, huh?
Program, but that they have this deep desire. It was built into them from day one. And when I came out of the construction program there, and I was wide-eyed, so excited to go build monuments with the best in the business. And then you get in, and construction is often it can be soul crushing, right? It can be tough and brutal, and this glamour that you thought was going to be there, like, it's often outweighed by the day-to-day challenges that we face. So now the kids in school, they've seen this technology, they're being exposed to it every day. Programs are being rewritten to teach them why should we be using these tools, and teaching them at least a foundation in how to use them. So they come out and they want to use this. They've seen the future, right? And when they come into an environment that is resistant to that is pushing that down, it ultimately just kind of kills that soul and that drive day by day on the project. So they're eager, they see the future, they're being told the future, they're being taught this, they're playing with these tools, they're going to internships and using these tools, and they're picking it up very fast compared to even me and others. It took us a lot longer to be able to pick up these tools. Maybe that they want it, they see it, they understand it, and one of my favorite things I always tell the kids is I say, we're bringing sexy back to construction.
You're right.
We're making it fun. It's exciting. Like, this is badass. Oh, excuse my. Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're good. You're good. This is a construction project, podcast.
Yeah, it's really cool stuff, man. And they are just salivating for it. And they're getting the.
So let me just ask you this. So I'm curious. So let's say I'm listening to the show. I'm a new PE or a young PM. I'm 3 to 5 years into my career. I do see these technologies, and yet I do get some resistance. How do you see smart young people pushing this in their organizations? Yeah.
So sometimes you got to be willing to put, if you really believe it and you really know it can have an impact, sometimes that means spending your own time outside of your 9 to 5 or construction, your 7 to 7, right? Good. That you got to often prove the value, right? You got to say, all right, guys, let me show you. It's okay if you don't get it. I'm going to show you. And this is what we're going to do. And this is how we're going to do it. And I'm going to report back to you in the next few months. I'm going to show you why we need to be doing this. That's, when 12 years ago, when I started managing my first project, it's what I had to do, right? There was 2D design only. We were seeing these problems, and I knew that there was a better way. I started using these tools, 13, 14 years ago. So I spent every night and weekend for 6 months to build these models and say, look, guys, there are significant problems here that you're not seeing. And now you see them. Let's work towards solving them. Now we can understand them and see them and get ahead of these construction delays that are happening by not identifying these early. So yeah, sometimes the hardest thing is to be able to commit that time outside of already a long work week for construction. But sometimes that's what it takes. You got to put yourself out there and just go for it.
Yeah, it's interesting. And so you started off as a PM working on large projects, and from there you launched VEC in 2010. Tell us a little bit about VEC and what it is that you guys do in the construction industry.
Yeah. So we're primarily, the coined terms today, BIM, VDC, really just stemming from the application of technology. So, we're headquartered here in San Francisco. We've got offices on 2 other continents as well. And so really what we do, we partner with trade subcontractors, partner with general contractors, and we help them bridge that gap between this 2D design intent and the actual construction site. That includes the modeling side, the in-office side, which often is done on the job site, but we'll say that virtual 3D modeling side, working side by side with them to develop their shop drawings, their prefabrication kits, optimizing their system routing, spooling all their material and extracting all that out of the model. Then we go into the field and we have on-site teams that use robotic stations to provide layout, put all those coordinate points on the ground. That's really more in the subcontractor community. With the general contractor community, we help them by leading the BIM coordination process and deploying laser scanning and other technology primarily for quality assurance and quality control. And that's the bulk of our volume of work. We do work with the design community as well, but primarily in the design build environment when it's still within that umbrella. And most recently, we've been engaging with owners to really help them prescribe things right from the beginning, which is going to help the general contractors and help the trades be aligned from the beginning and get better data or more advanced data from that design process.
That's terrific. And how can people get in touch with you if they'd like to?
We've got a website, vec-us.com. You can go ahead and email me directly, shane@vec-us.com. And you can give me a call. I'm still very, despite being head of a technology company, I'm still very old school in a lot of ways. I like phone calls. I like to meet in person. So you can give me a call as well. And Eric, will you share my contact information or?
Absolutely. Yeah. Everything will be in the show notes. We'll have the link to your email, your website. And I got 415-888-1VEC.
That's the company number. You can get me there, or my cell, 415-410-3715. And man, I'd love to get together, have a cup of coffee, talk about what's going on with your company and be able to recommend, understand what problems you're facing and be able to make some recommendations on how we can do things better together. Right.
Shane is very bravely giving us his mobile number, and hopefully you won't get too many spam calls as a result of that.
It's already too much, man. So it's okay.
so let's just wrap up here. We started off by talking about how waste accounts for 20 to 30% of project development costs. I'm a GC. I'm a subcontractor. I want to reduce that waste maybe by a couple of points here. What are 3 specific actions I should be taking right away, Shane?
Yeah. So one is looking at the technology that's currently being used on your projects and look at it. Look and see if there's a different way that it can be applied to get ahead of the problem instead of mitigating the problem or getting data too late. I gave the example of laser scanning. Yeah. Another we're doing for cast in place concrete is we're using laser scanning and robotic stations to give real-time feedback in the field as they're placing concrete. Just get it right to begin with. Don't come back and grind and float. Just get it right to begin with. We have these tools and processes available. So that would be one. Looking at what they're using today and think if there's a different way to apply it to get ahead of the problem instead of just identifying it and trying to figure out what to do at that point. Second is really, don't try to take this all on by yourself. That it's growing so fast that there's no shame in reaching out and asking for help, working with guys and gals that have been doing this for a very long time successfully with some of the biggest companies in the world. Ask for help, bring them in, partner with them, and at least as a starting point, be open to the new way of building. Because if you're not, I feel that we're really going to see kind of the first time where it's becoming an adapt or die. I mean, you can't even step up to the plate and bid a project if you don't know how to meet these new expectations. So be open, and it's not that we're forgetting the way that we've built and what we've done so well for many years, but we're really blending that field knowledge and experience with the technology and being able to do things better going forward.
Awesome. Well, as we wrap up here, I know you're in the Bay Area there, so I like to ask my guest, Shane, if I'm in the Bay Area, give me a restaurant recommendation.
Yeah. One of my favorites, it's on the Embarcadero. It's Lamar. It's a Peruvian cevicheria, and it's right there on the waterfront looking out at the Bay Bridge. Just a beautiful, amazing restaurant. If you want to get some nice ceviche, hang out, sit on their outdoor patio. It's one of my favorite go-tos here in the city.
Excellent. How do you spell that, just so I've got it?
Lamar, L-A-M-A-R.
L-A-M-A-R. Okay, we're going to put a link in the show notes, and that is a cool place to hang out. As far as on the waterfront there, right by the bridge, that is cool. Awesome. So Lamar SF, we're going to put that in the show notes too. Excellent. Well, I tell you, man, you've been super generous with your time here, Shane. I really appreciate all the insights that you've shared, and I look forward to connecting with you again in the future.
Yeah, thanks so much, Eric. Appreciate it.
Today's episode was brought to you by the Construction Conclave. If you as a construction leader would like to develop your skills and get involved in a community of like-minded construction professionals who are focused on building healthy teams, profitable projects, and long-term successful businesses, then the Construction Conclave is for you. It's a private invitation-only group of construction leaders that are focused on developing their leadership skills. We do training every single month online that looks at how to become a better leader in a very practical, straightforward way. We also have other events that build community and camaraderie so that you can associate with others who are interested in developing their skills as leaders. If you'd like more information and to see if you qualify for participating in the conclave, feel free to reach out to me, eric@ericanderton.com. Thank you for listening to this episode of Construction Genius. Hope you found that 1% of inspiration to help you in the next few days. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes, share it with other construction leaders who you think would benefit, and thanks again for listening.